The Galactic Academy was the pride of the Union worlds. It stood on a shining moon that circled a blue gas giant. From space, its towers looked like silver blades rising from white clouds. The Academy gathered young minds from across the stars, teaching them science, culture, and unity. Every species sent their brightest students there. For many years, the halls had echoed with dozens of alien languages. But this year, something new was happening. For the first time, a human was joining the Academy. The news spread fast among the students. Most had only seen humans on news channels or research clips. The common opinion was that humans were fragile creatures. They were from a small planet with thin air and wild climates. Many species thought humans were emotional and weak, unable to handle real danger. Some even said that humans feared pain more than anything. When the transport shuttle landed, a crowd gathered at the arrival dock. Students whispered to each other as the doors opened. A young man stepped out wearing the simple gray uniform of the Academy. He was not tall or short, not wide or thin. His name was Rin. His hair was dark and a little messy. His eyes moved with calm focus as if he was measuring everything around him. Rin carried only one small bag. He walked with steady steps and smiled politely at the others. The alien students stared at him with mixed feelings. Some were curious, some nervous, some skeptical. Among them stood Terran, a student from the Tiri species, tall and scaled with a long tail. Next to him was Vela from the Osha species, whose body shimmered like glass under sunlight. Terran leaned closer to Vela. He looks so soft. You think he can survive the physical training? Vela tilted her head. Maybe he does not need to. Humans are said to be clever, not strong. Rin heard their voices but did not react. He was used to such talk. During his preparation for the exchange program, he had read about how other species viewed humans. He knew most of them saw Earth as a primitive world, but he also knew something they did not understand. Humans were survivors. They had learned to live on a world that never stopped testing them. A staff officer led Rin through the orientation hall. The walls shimmered with soft light, showing holographic displays of the Academy's history. Students walked by, some greeting him with polite nods, others just watching from a distance. Every step Rin took felt like a silent challenge. He knew he represented his entire species here. At the dormitory, Rin was assigned to a shared room with Terran and Vela. The two aliens exchanged quick glances when they saw his name on the list. They did not object, but both had doubts. Later that evening, as Rin unpacked his small bag, Terran tried to start a conversation. "Human, your world has gravity close to ours, yes?" Rin smiled. "Yes, very close." "You can just call me Rin," Terran blinked. "You do not use family identifiers." "We do, but just Rin is fine." Vela observed him quietly. Her crystalline body caught the soft light, casting colors on the wall. "Is it true that your species avoids pain? That you have fear of wounds?" Rin looked at her with mild amusement. "We do not enjoy pain, but we do not run from it either. We heal, we adapt, we keep moving." Vela said nothing more. She found his calm tone strange. Most beings flinched at the idea of pain. Humans spoke of it like it was a normal part of living. The next morning, the new students gathered at the training field. The instructor, a massive being named Rokar, stood waiting. His body was covered in heavy armor plates and his voice rumbled like thunder. "Welcome to the Academy. Here you will learn not only knowledge but discipline. Every species has its limits. Your task is to discover them and push beyond." The students lined up by species. Rin stood at the end of the row, looking small beside the towering figures of other races. Rokar's eyes studied him with interest. "Human," Rokar said, "you are the first of your kind here. You will be treated equally. No special care. Understood?" "Yes, instructor," Rin replied firmly. "Good. Begin warm-up sequence." The gravity adjusted, increasing slightly to simulate field conditions. The alien students moved gracefully, adapted to physical pressure. Rin followed their rhythm, breathing steadily. His movements were simple but efficient. He did not try to impress anyone. He only focused on control. During endurance drills, some students began to tire under the heat setting. Rin's face was red, but he kept running. When Vela stumbled on the uneven floor, Rin slowed and helped her up. His touch surprised her. His hand was warm, steady, and strong. "You are heavy for a glass being," he said with a small grin. She gave a soft laugh, unsure how to respond. "And you are not as weak as I thought." By the end of the session, even the instructor looked impressed. Rokar clapped his hands once. "Human, you did not fall behind? Good." Rin nodded in thanks. Around him, whispers grew. The students had expected him to collapse. Instead, he had endured quietly. After training, the group gathered in the canteen. The air smelled of mixed alien meals. Rin sat at a corner table, eating something that looked like bread from a small packet he brought from Earth. Terran joined him. "You do not eat Academy food?" "I will soon. I just like to start slow." Terran watched him tear the bread calmly. "You are different from what I heard. Most of us thought humans were fragile." Rin looked thoughtful. "Maybe we are, but fragility does not mean weakness. It means we break and still fix ourselves." The simple words made Terran silent for a moment. He had never thought of it that way. That evening, the dorm was quiet except for the hum of machines outside. Vela was studying her biology module when Rin came out of the shower with a towel around his arm. She noticed a small scar on his skin. "You have healed from an old injury," she said. Rin glanced down. "Yes, from a fall back home?" "Nothing serious. Did it hurt?" "Of course it did," he said, smiling slightly. "But pain reminds us that we are alive." Vela stared at him, puzzled. Among her kind, pain was almost unknown. Their bodies regenerated instantly. They could not understand why anyone would accept pain as part of life. The next day brought a new challenge. The class was taken to the outdoor training ring, where they had to test reaction and coordination using mechanical drones. Each drone moved fast, firing harmless light pulses that stung on contact. The goal was to dodge and disable them using teamwork. When the exercise started, Rin took position beside Terran and Vela. The drones moved faster than expected. Students shouted warnings, ducked, and jumped. One pulse grazed Rin's side, burning the fabric of his uniform. He didn't stop. He ducked behind a barrier and continued coordinating with his teammates. After several rounds, their team completed the task fastest. The instructor clapped his heavy hands. "Efficient teamwork. Well done." Terran grinned at Rin. "Maybe humans are not so fragile after all." Rin wiped sweat from his forehead. "We just adapt fast." As they walked back to the dorm, a few students from other species approached Rin with questions. Some wanted to know how humans handled pressure or fear. Rin answered patiently, always with a calm smile. In the following days, more students began to include him in discussions. He listened more than he spoke, always respectful. The alien students noticed that he rarely complained even when the conditions were harsh. When the temperature dropped to freezing levels in one lab test, most complained, but Rin only rubbed his hands together and continued working. In private, Terran told Vela, "I think humans are different from what our data says. They have something we cannot measure." Vela nodded. "Yes, something behind their calm eyes. They endure." That night, Rin wrote in his digital log before sleeping, "The others are kind but cautious. They see me as strange. That is fine. I am here to learn, not to prove. Still, I feel they will understand one day why humans keep walking even when they bleed." Outside the dorm window, the gas giant shone like a giant pearl across the sky. The academy towers reflected its light, quiet and proud. Rin lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow would bring more training, more questions, and maybe more chances to show what humans truly were. Far across the hall, some students still whispered about the fragile creature from Earth. But others were beginning to see something else. Not weakness, not fear. Something deeper. Something they could not yet name. And so the first day of the human at the Galactic Academy ended, not with failure or fear, but with curiosity. The quiet boy from a small world had begun to change how the galaxy saw his kind. The morning sun rose over the silver towers of the Galactic Academy, turning the clouds below into rivers of light. Students filled the open training fields as the sound of engines and tools echoed through the air. Today's lesson was special. The instructors had announced a live simulation using mechanical drones, testing reflexes, teamwork, and problem-solving. Rin woke early, as he always did. He checked his training suit, tightened the wrist straps, and looked through the window of his dorm. The sky beyond was full of stars fading into daylight. His reflection stared back at him, calm and ready. For him, training days were not a burden. They were an opportunity to learn how others thought and acted. Terran and Vela were already waiting at the door. Terran's scales shimmered dark blue under the morning lights, and Vela's crystalline form glowed faintly with energy. Both looked more confident than before. Ready, human? Taryn said with a grin. Always, Rin replied. They walked together toward the training dome. The structure was vast, with a high transparent ceiling showing the giant planet that filled half the sky. Inside, hundreds of students were already preparing. Some stretched, others tested their tools, and a few whispered strategies. Instructor Rokar stood at the front, holding a command tablet in one thick hand. Today we test your reaction and courage. You will face drones with variable speed and precision. They will not harm you seriously, but they will sting if you fail to react. Remember, the purpose is to trust your teammates. The students nodded. Rin's group was assigned to the middle section of the dome. Each team had 6 members. Besides Rin, Taryn, and Vela, there were 3 others from different species. Their names were simple, but their appearances varied. One with soft feathers, one with smooth metallic skin, and another with long antennae that twitched nervously. As the countdown started, Rin took a deep breath. He watched the hovering drones unfold from hidden compartments in the ceiling. Each drone was small but fast, shaped like a spinning disc with blinking lights. The moment the timer hit 0, they shot forward in random directions, firing low-energy beams. The first beam passed near Rin's shoulder, close enough to burn his sleeve. He moved quickly, rolling aside and signaling his teammates to spread out. His voice was calm but firm. Left side open. Vela cover. Taryn flanked the drone on the right. The others obeyed, surprised by his quick command. They moved as he said, and soon one of the drones was caught in crossfire and disabled. Sparks fell to the ground as it powered down. The next few minutes were intense. The drones adjusted their patterns, flying faster and changing color to confuse the sensors. Some students began to panic, missing their marks. Rin noticed 2 of their drones circling behind Vela. He rushed forward and tackled her out of the way just before the light beam hit. You all right? He asked, helping her stand. Yes, she said, her crystal eyes wide. You saved me, he smiled briefly. Focus on the next one. By the time the alarm signaled the end of the round, their team had disabled 4 drones and earned the highest score of the session. The instructor nodded in approval. Good teamwork, especially from the human. Rin gave a respectful bow and followed his team out. Around them, students talked in low voices. Some praised his quick thinking, while others murmured that he was lucky. A few still clung to the old belief that humans were fragile, saying his calmness would not last under real danger. The next session was scheduled for the afternoon. It involved drone maintenance and quick repair under time pressure. Rin looked forward to it. He had spent part of his youth repairing broken equipment on Earth, and his hands were steady when working with small parts. When the session began, the teams gathered at different stations filled with mechanical pieces. Each group was assigned a damaged drone and told to restore it. The rule was simple: no advanced repair bots, only manual tools. Taryn picked up a wrench awkwardly. These tools are too small for my claws. Vela handled a soldering wire, but her heat level was too high, melting the edges of the metal. This is harder than it looks. Rin moved between them, adjusting their grips. Use this angle, not too much pressure. Let me handle the inner circuits. He leaned closer to the drone, his hands moving fast and precise. The others watched him work, surprised at how confident he looked around damaged machines. Within 20 minutes, their drone's light blinked back to life. Instructor Rokar walked by, inspecting their progress. Efficient work, Team 3. You finished first. Rin smiled lightly. Thank you, Instructor. The day seemed to go perfectly until the accident happened. During a test flight to confirm their repair, one of the reactivated drones malfunctioned. Its stabilizer failed, causing it to spin violently. Before anyone could react, a sharp fragment of metal broke off and shot across the room. It struck Rin's arm, tearing through the sleeve and cutting deep into his skin. The hall went silent. Students froze where they stood. The fragment clattered to the floor, still glowing from heat. Blood began to slide down Rin's arm in a slow red line. Taryn stepped back in shock. He is bleeding. Vela covered her mouth, her crystal fingers trembling. Call the medics quickly. But before anyone could move, Rin spoke quietly. It's all right. I've got it. He sat down against a nearby wall, his expression calm. The instructor started to walk toward him, but Rin raised his uninjured hand politely. Please give me a minute. Everyone watched as he pulled a small pack from his pocket. It was a simple first aid kit, compact and neatly arranged. He opened it and took out a spray bottle and a roll of sterile tape. Without flinching, he cleaned the wound, sprayed antiseptic, and pressed a patch over it. The movement of his hands was steady, as if he had done it many times before. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. Among their species, even minor injuries were treated by medical drones within seconds. Pain was considered something to avoid completely, but Rin did not seem afraid or angry. His face showed concentration, not panic. The instructor finally spoke. "Human, do you require medical attention?" Rin tightened the tape and stood up. "No, instructor. It's handled." The cut was still visible under the patch, but he flexed his fingers and nodded. "It's fine now." Terran's voice was almost a whisper. "You are not afraid of pain?" Rin shook his head. "Pain tells me something is wrong. It helps me know what to fix." "That's all?" Bella stared at him in disbelief. "You act like it is nothing." "You are hurt," Rin gave a small smile. "I'm fine. Let's continue." The instructor hesitated but allowed it. The others kept watching as Rin returned to his station and resumed work as if nothing had happened. His patched arm moved slower but still precise. When he lifted the repaired drone, his hands did not shake. The rest of the session passed quietly. No one spoke much, but every eye followed Rin. The moment class ended, a crowd gathered around him. One of the students from another team asked, "Why did you not wait for medical help?" Rin looked thoughtful. "Where I come from, sometimes help doesn't arrive right away. You learn to take care of yourself. Waiting can make things worse." Another alien with thin antennae and large eyes said softly, "But you were bleeding. We would have fainted from that." Rin replied calmly, "It hurts, yes, but pain does not control us unless we let it. We train our minds to stay clear." His words echoed in the silent hall. The aliens began to realize something they had never considered before. Humans were not careless. They were simply used to facing harm and continuing despite it. They lived on a world full of danger, storms, and hunger, yet they endured. When Rin returned to the dorm later, Vela followed him quietly. Inside, she spoke after a long pause. "I was afraid when I saw your arm. I thought you would scream or collapse." Rin chuckled softly. "It is not as bad as it looked. The body heals." "You are strange, Rin. You smile even when hurt." He placed the first aid kit back in his bag. "Smiling helps the heart stay calm. Pain is part of living. You cannot run from it forever." Terran entered the room soon after, still wide-eyed. "I told the others what you did. They said humans must have high pain tolerance." Rin shook his head. "Not tolerance. Just acceptance. We feel pain like anyone else. We just choose not to stop because of it." Terran sat on his bed, thoughtful. "I see now why your kind survived so many wars and harsh worlds. You don't stop." The room grew quiet. Outside, the gas giant's light filtered through the window, painting the walls in soft blue. Rin lay on his bed, looking at his bandaged arm. The wound pulsed, but he felt peaceful. He knew his actions today would spread through the academy by morning. Maybe they would call him brave. Maybe reckless. It didn't matter. What mattered was that they had seen what being human truly meant, and for the first time, the alien students of the Galactic Academy began to wonder if fragility was not weakness, but the reason humans had become so strong. The news of Rin's calm reaction during the accident spread quickly through the Galactic Academy. By the next morning, almost everyone had heard about the human who fixed his own wound without calling for medical help. Some said he was fearless. Others thought he was strange. A few even wondered if humans could feel pain at all. When Rin entered the cafeteria that morning, dozens of eyes turned toward him. He carried his usual tray of food, quiet and steady. He noticed the whispers but did not seem bothered. For him, attention was only noise. What mattered was learning. Vela and Terran were waiting for him at their usual table. They looked both proud and confused. Terran grinned as Rin sat down. "You have become famous, my friend. Half the academy is talking about you." Rin raised an eyebrow. "Famous for what?" Vela leaned forward. "For not panicking when you were hurt? Everyone saw you clean and patch your arm. They think humans are built different." Rin smiled a little. "We are not built different. We just think different. We have learned to deal with problems even when they hurt." Terran shook his head. "Still, I cannot imagine doing that. If I were cut like that, I would need medics instantly." Rin nodded. "That is normal for your species. Where I come from, help is not always near. You learn early to care for yourself." Their conversation caught the attention of nearby students. A few from other tables came closer to listen. One of them, a tall, feathered student named Rovi, spoke curiously. Human, is it true that you were not scared at all? Rin looked at him. I was careful, not scared. Fear is a tool if you use it well. It helps you stay alert. The aliens exchanged uncertain looks. To them, fear was something to avoid. They had been taught to rely on comfort and control. The idea of using fear sounded strange. Later that day, the students attended a class on survival psychology. Instructor Rokar began with a lesson on stress response. Every species reacts differently to danger, he explained. Some freeze, some flee, and some fight. Your instincts are shaped by your evolution. He looked across the room, then pointed toward Rin. Our human guest is a good example of an uncommon reaction. He faced injury without panic. Tell us, human, why? Rin stood up respectfully. The room went quiet. Dozens of eyes were on him. When humans get hurt, we feel pain like everyone else, he said. But we also know pain does not always mean the end. We learn to see it as information. It tells us what is wrong. Once we know, we fix it. That is all. A soft murmur spread through the hall. Rin continued. On Earth, life is not easy. Storms, hunger, sickness, many things can harm you. You learn to keep moving even when it hurts. If we stopped every time we felt pain, we would not survive long. Instructor Rokar nodded thoughtfully. So pain for humans is not an enemy, but a message. Yes, Instructor, Rin said. We fear it, but we do not let it control us. The class fell silent again. Even the instructor seemed impressed by the simple honesty of the answer. After the session, several students gathered around Rin in the corridor. They wanted to know more about human endurance. A small insect-like student asked, Do humans heal slower than other species? Sometimes, Rin replied. But we heal enough. The body tries and the mind helps it. Another one with metallic skin tilted his head. You make it sound easy. It is not easy, Rin said. It is painful and it takes time. But we accept it. The group followed him as he walked. He answered every question patiently, explaining how humans built strong skin through scars and stronger hearts through effort. The more he spoke, the quieter the others became. They were starting to understand that human strength did not come from power or technology, but from spirit. When Rin returned to his dorm that evening, Vela was waiting inside. She looked thoughtful, almost uneasy. Rin, she said softly, today when you spoke about pain, it made me think, my people never feel it. Our bodies repair instantly, but maybe we have lost something because of that. Rin placed his bag down and looked at her. What do you mean? Vela sat on her bed, her crystal skin catching the dim light. When something breaks in us, it fixes before we even notice. We never learn patience. We never learn to value what we have. Maybe your kind understands life more deeply because you feel it. Rin smiled kindly. Every species learns in its own way. You heal fast, and that is good. We just heal differently. Taryn entered moments later, holding a training schedule. Instructor Rokar has planned a new endurance test tomorrow. It will be outside the dome on the rocky field. Harsh conditions, Rin nodded. Then we will learn something new again. That night, while most students rested, Rin stayed awake, writing notes in his digital log. He recorded observations about each species' behavior under pressure, how fear and pain influenced them, and how cooperation changed reactions. To him, this was more than just survival training. It was understanding life in all its forms. The next morning, the students were taken to the outdoor field beyond the academy's main towers. The ground was rough and uneven, covered with dark stones that crunched under their boots. The gravity felt slightly heavier and cold wind cut across the open area. Instructor Rokar stood before them, his armor glinting. Today you will face a timed endurance run. There are obstacles, unstable paths, and energy barriers. Work as teams. Focus on rhythm, not speed. The teams assembled. Rin stood beside Taryn and Vela again, joined by 3 other students. The signal sounded and they began moving. The first stretch was easy, a simple run through shallow craters. Rin kept a steady pace, breathing in rhythm. Taryn's claws dug into the ground for grip, while Vela's crystal feet slid smoothly across the rocks. As they advanced, the terrain grew harder. Sharp ridges cut across the path. At one point, a section of ground shifted unexpectedly, making Rovi stumble and twist his ankle. He cried out, clutching his leg. I cannot move. The others froze, unsure what to do. Rin dropped to one knee beside him and examined the joint quickly. Not broken, just strained. He took out a small band from his belt and wrapped it tight around Rovi's ankle. It will hold until we finish. Rovi winced. But it hurts. I know, Rin said calmly. Pain is just a signal. You can walk with it slowly. The others looked uneasy but followed Rin's lead. He supported Rovi's arm and helped him walk. Despite the delay, they kept moving forward. Halfway through the course, they reached a low valley filled with strong wind. Dust swirled in circles, stinging their eyes. The air was thin and every breath burned. Some students wanted to stop. Rin raised his voice just enough for all to hear. Keep going, one step at a time. Do not think of the end. Just think of the next step. His tone was calm but full of certainty. The others obeyed without question. His words carried a strange power, the kind that came from quiet confidence. When they finally reached the checkpoint, everyone was exhausted. Terran's scales were scratched, Vela's glow had dimmed, and Rovi's steps were slow. Rin's patched arm ached, but he kept his smile. Instructor Rokar recorded their time and looked at them. You finished second despite the injury in your group. Well done, Rin shook his head. It was teamwork. Everyone helped, but the others knew the truth. It was Rin's steady presence that kept them going. He never raised his voice or lost control. Even when tired, he guided them like a quiet leader. After the test, while they rested near the field, Terran said, You make it sound so simple. How do you stay so calm? Rin drank from his water bottle and looked at the horizon. Because panic wastes strength. If we stay calm, we can think. Thinking saves lives, Vela nodded slowly. Maybe that is the true strength of humans. Not power, but the mind that refuses to break. Rin smiled faintly. Maybe. We are not the fastest or strongest, but we are stubborn. We keep going. By the time they returned to the academy, many students had begun to see humans in a new way. They talked less about fragility and more about endurance. Some even practiced small resilience exercises, trying to stay calm under minor discomfort. That night, Instructor Rokar sent a report to the Academy Council. His words were short but clear. The human student demonstrates exceptional mental endurance. Pain and fear appear to strengthen rather than weaken him. This trait could be valuable for future joint missions. Meanwhile, Rin sat by the dorm window looking out at the stars. He touched the patch on his arm, now almost healed, and smiled quietly. The others were learning, and so was he. He understood now that courage was not only about facing danger, it was also about showing others that fear and pain could be mastered. And in a galaxy where comfort had made many soft, perhaps the humans had something important to teach. The morning air on the Academy's outer field was sharp and cold. A thin mist hovered above the rocky terrain, hiding jagged stones and uneven patches. Instructor Rokar stood at the edge of the training ground, his heavy armor reflecting the dim sunlight. Today's exercise was called the Endurance Trial, designed to test both physical strength and mental focus. Rin and his team assembled at the starting point. Terran's tail flicked nervously, Vela's crystal body shimmered faintly, and Rovi flexed his ankle carefully under the supportive wrap Rin had placed during the previous exercise. 3 new students from other species joined them, their eyes wide with anticipation and anxiety. Rokar's deep voice echoed across the field. You will traverse the rocky path to the far plateau. Along the way, you will encounter obstacles, shifting terrain, and environmental hazards. You are allowed to help each other, but no external assistance will be provided. Finish as a team. Begin. Immediately, the group spread out. The rocks were slippery and uneven. Cold wind cut across their faces, making their breathing shallow. Rin led the way, his eyes scanning the terrain for danger. Every step he took was precise, every motion calculated. He moved fast enough to stay ahead, but carefully enough not to stumble. The first obstacle was a narrow bridge suspended over a deep chasm. The bridge swayed with each step. Terran hesitated. I do not trust this. One wrong step, and we fall. Rin extended a hand. Move slowly. Focus on each step. We will cross together. Vela went next, her crystal feet gliding lightly. Rin guided her arm gently when she slipped slightly. The others followed, moving cautiously. Rin's calm voice encouraged them through each step. By the time they reached the other side, every student felt their confidence grow, inspired by his steady presence. Further along, the terrain grew harsher. Loose stones tumbled underfoot, forcing careful balance. Strong gusts of wind threatened to knock them off course. Terran's claws scraped against rocks, leaving small chips. Vela's glow dimmed slightly from fatigue. Even Rin's patched arm felt stiff from the cold, but he ignored it. Pain was only a signal, not a reason to stop. Suddenly, a small section of rock collapsed under Rovi's foot. He fell to the ground with a sharp cry, twisting his knee. The other students froze. Some panicked, unsure what to do. Rin rushed to him immediately. "Hold still," Rin said calmly. He examined the knee carefully, checking for serious injury. "It is not broken, just sprained. We can stabilize it." He took a strip of cloth from his bag and wrapped it around Rovi's knee, making a supportive band. He helped him stand, holding his arm lightly so Rovi could walk. "Pain is temporary. Focus on your steps, one at a time." The other students watched silently. They had never seen anyone continue after being hurt in this way. Most species would have stopped completely, demanding immediate aid. Rin did not complain, did not hesitate, and did not panic. As the team moved forward, the next challenge appeared. A sudden storm of cold wind and sand rose over the valley, making it nearly impossible to see. The small group huddled together, instinctively following Rin's lead. "Stay close," Rin said. "Keep your eyes on my movement. Focus on each step. Don't let the wind control your mind." Terran shifted his scales against the sand and followed Rin, trusting the human in a way he had never trusted anyone before. Vela moved with care, allowing Rin to guide her through the invisible hazards. Even Rovi's limp became steadier as Rin encouraged him with short, firm words. The storm passed after what felt like an hour. The team reached a shallow ravine with slippery slopes leading to the final plateau. Instructor Rokar watched silently from above, noting the team's steady progression despite the obstacles and injuries. "This is where most students fail," Terran whispered. "Then we will not," Rin replied quietly. "Focus, do not rush, and keep moving." The team climbed carefully. Rin stayed near the middle to support the weaker students, moving between them as needed. His hands and arms steadied each person's balance, his words offering quiet reassurance. Slowly but surely, they reached the plateau. Rovi gasped and sank to the ground exhausted. "I cannot go further," he said, his voice low. Rin crouched beside him. "Yes, you can. One more step at a time. Lean on me. We finish together." The group stood together, exhausted but determined. Even the new students who had doubted humans' endurance began to understand the meaning of resilience. Rin's calmness and quiet leadership had guided them through danger without fear or complaint. When the exercise ended, Instructor Rokar approached. His voice carried both respect and curiosity. "Human, you have completed the course without halting, even with your injury and your teammates' challenges. Explain your method." Rin smiled faintly. "I do not ignore pain. I feel it, I assess it, and I act. Fear is a signal, not a command. If we allow it to control us, it becomes a barrier. If we face it with focus, it becomes a guide." Rokar nodded. "Interesting. Many species stop at fear or pain. You convert it into forward motion. Others should observe and learn." The alien students were quiet but reflective. Vela finally spoke, her voice soft. "I think I understand now. Humans are not stronger in body, but in will. That is their strength." Terran flexed his claws. "I was wrong about your species. I thought you feared injury. You do not. You use it to guide yourself." Rin touched the patch on his arm. The wound ached faintly, but he ignored it. "We do not fear because we must live. Pain is part of living, but it does not stop us." That night, the dorm was quiet. The students reflected on the day's lessons. Vela studied her notes, realizing that her own species' instant regeneration had never taught her patience or endurance. Terran sat by the window, thinking about the scars on Rin's arm and how they represented resilience. Rovi quietly inspected his wrapped knee, grateful for Rin's guidance. Rin, meanwhile, wrote in his digital log. He recorded the events, noting each challenge, each reaction, and each lesson the aliens had learned. He understood that this experience was more than just training. It was teaching the Academy about human endurance, about how pain and struggle could strengthen rather than weaken. In the following days, Rin's team became a model for other students. Teams who had never finished exercises without injury or panic now studied Rin's methods. They practiced staying calm, supporting teammates, and facing pain without fear. The idea that humans were fragile had vanished from the minds of most students who observed Rin. Instructor Rokar also recognized the human's value. He scheduled a special session on endurance philosophy, inviting Rin to speak about how humans face danger. Rin explained calmly, using examples from Earth and from his personal experience. He did not boast, he did not exaggerate. He simply shared the way humans lived with challenge and continued despite setbacks. The aliens listened, fascinated. Many realized that they had never truly tested themselves. Their society had always shielded them from pain, injury, and struggle. Humans, in contrast, faced it daily and became stronger because of it. One evening, Vela approached Rin privately. "Do you feel fear at all?" she asked, her voice quiet. Rin thought for a moment. "Of course. Fear is natural, but I do not let it control me. I acknowledge it, learn from it, and then act." Vela nodded slowly. "I have never thought like that." "Perhaps we can learn something important from your kind," Taryn added, leaning against the doorframe. "Humans do not give up. Even when hurt, even when exhausted, they keep going. That is why you survived this trial. That is why we followed you." Rin smiled faintly. "We all survived because we helped each other. Pain does not weaken us if we do not let it. Strength is not in avoiding danger, but in facing it." By the time the week ended, Rin's reputation had changed entirely. He was no longer seen as a fragile human from a primitive world. He was respected as a student whose endurance, calm, and quiet leadership had challenged everything the aliens believed about his species. Even the Academy instructors began to discuss the implications. If humans could teach other species about facing pain and persevering under difficulty, they could become invaluable for missions in uncharted and dangerous worlds. Rin's team continued their training, taking every challenge seriously. Each obstacle, each harsh condition, and each minor injury became an opportunity to demonstrate resilience. The other students slowly started adopting his calm method, supporting teammates instead of panicking at small injuries, and learning to keep moving even when uncomfortable. By the end of Part 4, the message was clear. Humans were not fragile. Humans did not fear injury. Humans accepted struggle, faced it head-on, and learned from it. The alien students now began to understand that this quiet endurance, combined with calm reasoning, was the kind of strength that could change the galaxy. Rin sat on the dormitory roof that night, watching the gas giant glowing in the sky. His arm throbbed faintly under the patch, but he felt no fear. He had taught the students a lesson without raising his voice or striking an enemy. He had shown them that courage and strength were not measured by the absence of pain, but by the will to continue despite it. As the stars twinkled above the Academy, Rin smiled faintly. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, and new lessons. And each day the alien students would see more clearly what it truly meant to be human. The sun rose slowly over the Academy's outer training field. Mist hovered above the jagged stones, and the chill of the morning wind cut through the students' uniforms. Today was the final test of the module, a survival and endurance simulation that combined physical obstacles, mental challenges, and teamwork. Rin's team gathered at the starting point. Taran, Vela, Rovi, and the others stood tense but focused. They had learned much from previous exercises, but this simulation would push them farther than ever. Instructor Rokar stood above them on a platform, his armored form casting a shadow over the field. "Today," Rokar's voice boomed, "you will face an unknown environment designed to challenge every skill you have learned. Injuries, fatigue, and environmental hazards will test your resolve. Only those who cooperate and endure will succeed. Begin." Immediately, the team moved forward. The path was unpredictable. Loose stones gave way underfoot. Hidden energy barriers activated at random intervals. Gusts of cold wind threatened to throw them off balance. Rin led the group carefully, his eyes scanning the field. Every hazard was observed before each step. When a stone shifted under Terran's foot, Rin grabbed his arm and steadied him. When a sudden gust pushed Vela against a barrier, Rin adjusted her position and guided her safely forward. Halfway through the field, Rovi tripped over a jagged stone and fell heavily. His ankle twisted again despite the previous support. He cried out, frustrated and fearful. Rin knelt beside him immediately. "It is all right," he said calmly. "We fix it and we keep going. Focus on your next step, not the pain." He carefully examined the ankle and reinforced the bandage with extra strips of cloth from his bag. He applied gentle pressure, supporting Rovi as he rose to his feet. "We move together," Rin said. The rest of the team watched in silence. They had seen Rin endure injury and continue, but this time it was not just his own pain. He was managing the team's struggles, guiding each student without hesitation. Every step he took was measured, deliberate, and reassuring. The terrain grew steeper. A series of narrow ledges clung to the side of a small cliff. Below, a drop stretched far into a misty chasm. The wind howled through the valley, making each step dangerous. Terran's tail lashed nervously as he tried to maintain balance. Vela's crystal body glimmered with frost. "Follow me exactly," Rin said quietly. "Do not rush." One at a time, the team moved carefully. Rin positioned himself in the center, ready to support anyone who faltered. Step by step, ledge by ledge, they crossed the perilous path. At the end of the ledges, a narrow crevice forced the team to crawl through a tight tunnel. It was dark, cold, and uneven. The walls scraped against their bodies, leaving minor scratches. Rin went first, clearing the path and signaling when it was safe for the others. When the last student emerged, they found a small ridge leading to the plateau where the simulation would end. The sun was higher now, casting long shadows across the jagged rocks. Students were exhausted, breathing heavily and showing signs of fatigue. Rin's patched arm throbbed faintly, his legs ached, but he did not show it. Instructor Rokar observed silently from above. This was the final challenge, and many teams had failed at earlier stages. But Rin's group continued steadily, undeterred by the harsh conditions. A sudden obstacle appeared, a shallow stream with jagged stones hidden beneath a thin layer of water. Some students hesitated. Vela's feet slipped slightly as she attempted to cross. Rin extended his hand. "Take it slow. Watch the stones, feel each step, and balance your weight. We cross together." He led by example, stepping carefully across the stones. Each move was precise. The others followed, guided by his steady presence. Rovi, still limping slightly, made it across with Rin's support. The team reached the far side without incident. Finally, they approached the plateau. A series of low-energy barriers activated in rapid succession. The team had to coordinate perfectly to pass through without being hit. Rin studied the pattern, then whispered instructions to each teammate. Left first, then center, then right. Wait for the signal. One movement at a time. The team moved carefully. The barriers pulsed with energy, forcing them to time each step with precision. Rin's calm voice guided them through. When Vela hesitated, he encouraged her softly. "Trust yourself. Trust the rhythm." By the time they reached the top, everyone was breathing hard, covered in dust, sweat, and minor scratches. Rovi leaned heavily on Rin. "I could not have done this without you," he said, his voice trembling with relief. Rin smiled faintly. "You did it. I only helped guide you. Courage comes from within." Instructor Rokar descended from the platform, his expression unreadable. "Human, your team has completed the course under extreme conditions with injuries, fatigue, and environmental hazards. Explain your approach to success." Rin looked at the group, then back at Rokar. "We faced each obstacle one at a time. We acknowledged pain but did not let it stop us. We supported each other. Fear and injury are signals, not commands. We acted with calm focus and determination. That is all." Rokar studied him closely. "Interesting. Most species freeze under this stress. You convert it into coordinated action. The lesson is clear for all present." The alien students were quiet, reflecting on what they had seen. Terran spoke first, his voice firm. "I thought humans were weak and afraid of pain. I was wrong. You do not fear it. You use it to guide yourself. Vela added softly. Your strength is not in your body. It is in your mind, your calm, and your will to continue. Rovi, still catching his breath, looked at Rin with admiration. I thought the exercise would break me, but you showed me how to keep going. I understand now what humans mean by endurance. The other students nodded quietly. Each one had learned an important lesson about courage, resilience, and the human spirit. That evening, the team gathered in the dormitory. They were exhausted, but their minds were alive with reflection. Rin unpacked his small bag and checked the patch on his arm. It had held firm throughout the trial. Vela spoke first. You make it sound simple, but I know it is not. How do you face so many challenges and injuries without panic? Rin smiled faintly. It is not simple. It takes practice and experience. We feel pain, we feel fear, but we do not let them control us. We act, we fix, and we continue. That is the way we survive and thrive. Taran leaned back, his tail curling around his feet. I see now why humans have survived on Earth for so long. Your world is harsh, but your kind keeps going. That is the lesson for all of us, Vela nodded. Perhaps we have been too protected. We never learned to value patience or endurance because we healed too quickly. Your species has a strength we cannot measure with instruments. You teach through action. Rin's smile was quiet. We do not seek praise. We only do what we must to live. Pain and struggle are part of life. If we face them calmly, we become stronger. As night fell over the academy, students shared stories of the day's challenge. They talked less about victory and more about what they had learned. Humans, they realized, were not fragile or weak. They were resilient, calm under pressure, and capable of inspiring others simply by continuing forward when conditions were hardest. Instructor Rokar filed his report to the Academy Council. The human student demonstrates exceptional leadership, endurance, and mental focus. Pain and injury strengthen rather than hinder him. His presence benefits not only his team but all students who observe his actions. This approach should be included in future training modules for cross-species teams. Back in the dormitory, Rin lay on his bed, watching the gas giant in the night sky. The patch on his arm throbbed slightly, but he felt peaceful. He had not only completed the simulation, but also shown others the meaning of courage. Strength, he knew, was not in avoiding pain or fear, but in facing them with determination and helping others do the same. Taran, sitting beside the window, looked at him with a new respect. I will never think of humans as fragile again. Vela's glow was soft and steady. We will remember this lesson. You showed us something no instrument or study could teach, the power of calm, willful endurance. Rovi added quietly, we will try to follow your example in the future. You made us stronger today. Rin closed his eyes briefly, feeling the quiet pride of teaching without words. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, new challenges, and new opportunities. But the lesson of today would remain, humans do not fear pain. Humans endure. Humans lead by showing what it means to continue when the world is hardest. And so, in the halls of the Galactic Academy, the story of Rin, the human who patched his own wounds and guided his team through danger, spread far and wide.